every individual to analyze investments to grow. We would like to illustrate in the sense, I would like to illustrate my point a bit further before we get into the panel discussion. Out of my own experience in the financial markets, I felt that the Indian investors are always at a disadvantage compared to global investors, owing to our approach towards investment strategy formulation. Okay, where we'll talk about emotions and all. So here we are talking about technology, which will be taking care of all the emotions. We largely bank on traditional approaches that are labor intensive and time consuming. Thus, investments, though motivated, lose out on agility. Okay. Consequently, money is lost. Okay. So the slowdown triggered by the pandemic that has outlined these fissures in our system. The confusion triggered by volatility and the large dependence on human emotions has led to downward spiral of markets. Okay, it's about time was shifted to more tech-based approaches, leverage the markets better. Okay, where I feel though the globalization had happened in 90s, like as an evolution, tech integration would be the revolution that would complete the Indian investments growth story. Okay, so we at Ziva are committed to introducing the country to the revolution. Our AI, deep machine learning, and neural networking based products are designed to cater the ever-changing wants of modern day investors. So I would quote Mr. Steve Jobs, where I think it's very much related to this particular stuff. Like he quotes, "Let's go invent tomorrow instead of worrying about what happened yesterday." Okay, so this is what like we are talking about the technology where like normally in investments emotions plays a lot of a part, and normally we are on the wrong side more or less. Okay, so I think I would just now like to present the dais to Abhinav, our head of communication. Abhinav, are you there? Abhinav? Abhinav? Hello?
You're connecting, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm hoping for it to connect. Sorry for that glitch. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before commencing with the panel discussions, firstly, I would like to thank the Ziva team for arranging everything for us. And at the same point in time, our CEO, Mr. Baswaraj Puttappa, for supporting us, and our media partners, Fame Technologies, for setting it all up for us. Aftab sir said, like the 1990s was a time when the Indian economy evolved. But what I feel is it's more of a attitude change towards a problem that happened in the 1990s. Just imagine in the 1980s when the closed economy was dying. These kind of meetings would happen in closed doors, behind closed doors with a handful of people. And today we are connecting from various parts of the globe to solve a common problem. This breaking down of the boundaries as such is actually what I think we have learned over the or earned over the last 30 years. So it's time to, because now we are faced with more graver challenges with the pandemic and everything. So I guess it's time for getting along and solving or paving the path for the next 30 years to come with innovation. Having said that, in order to shed more light on this, with our first panel, we have Mr. Siddharth Mehra. He is the CFO of Zolo, and he is a very renowned figure in the financial sector. And welcome, sir. Welcome to our webinar. This is our first initiative, and thank you for being a part of this. And
Thank
we
you.
have Radesh Kunmuri. He is the managing partner for Aka Ventures. We are still waiting for him. I guess there's some technical issues that we are facing at that point. So we'll start the first panel discussion with Siddharth sir with us. So, sir, being a part of this sector and understanding the market so well, what are the challenges that we are facing at this point in time, or what are the challenges which have become more severe in this COVID world? and which are the sectors which are most affected by this? Could you please shed some light on that?
Sure, Abhinav. Well, thank you first of all for having me here.
Our pleasure, sir.
It's a privilege to be here and talking to all of you. So, Abhinav, I think first of all, situations like these, pandemic, COVID-19, declared by WHO as a pandemic, these are once in a lifetime kind of events and episodes that take place. It's very different from what we have seen in the past, at least in our living memory. So the way to look at it is that the, uh, the impact of this is essentially from economy, right? Where the economic consumption is down, and as a result of which the economic shrinkage is there, right? There are different numbers that are floating around for different countries in terms of what is the impact on the GDP. For India, people are talking about 4%, 5%. And same for the US. People are talking about trillions of dollars in terms of economic activity being vanished or disappeared, right? So that's the first point, right? The second point is this is a unique situation in a sense. Both demand and supply has been impacted. So there are companies who have been impacted because of the demand side, and there are companies who have been impacted because of the supply side. While there was a demand for their products, but they didn't have the supply, right? So it's a unique situation in that sense where demand and supply both are impacted. The third thing is that the financial impact, right? The financial sector also has been impacted by all this, right? So we talk about various things about liquidity, working capital, bad debt, loans, all of that, and I think that is there at least for some time before this pain kind of goes out. Um, so, you talk about economy, you talk about demand, you talk about supply, you talk about financials, everything is impacted, right? Only good news is that the entire world is together. Each and every person has been impacted, each and every industry has been impacted, each and every country has been impacted by this event.
So, sir,
That's
at this point in time, I would just like to cut in when you're speaking about like the problems and the impacts. Is it time, is it a moment of reckoning for the entire economy? Like we are about to shift from the traditional basis to something new. Is this something, some sort of some sort of prophecy that is about to come true? Like, okay, things are about to evolve from like whatever we did so long, and something new is going to come in. Is that something? Is that something coming up, or what? What is your take on that?
So, innovation, right? In terms of transforming what you call as traditional business models. Business models have been continuously evolving, right? So the business model that was there in 70s is not there in 80s, was there in 2000, it's not there in 2010. Business models keep evolving. And the reason the business models keep evolving because the consumer behavior keeps evolving, right? And the supply chain keeps evolving, technology keeps evolving, machine learning comes in, deep technologies come in. So fundamental shift keeps happening, right? Therefore, for me, it is not a function of saying, is the traditional business going to go away, right? And I guess you mean is that today, people used to go to a shop and buy at a shop. Are
Hmm.
they going to
Hmm.
go digital and just buy digitally?
Hmm.
Well, digital is there to stay, right? I think, and digital was always there for the last 5 years, 10 years, and digital penetration was always happening. All this has done is digital penetration is now got accelerated, right?
Okay.
So when,
Uh,
sorry.
I guess Radesh sir is coming in. Good afternoon, sir. Radesh sir, we were waiting
Yeah,
for you.
yeah,
Sir, we were discussing about what are the challenges and that we are facing in this COVID world. I'd like to quickly bring you in it. And so, what do you think are the major challenges and how innovation is trying to?
yeah. I think you meant to say in the COVID world, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the world we know right now.
Yeah. So I think one of the things is that the mobility of people that has been completely restricted. And if you
Hmm.
look into, I focus only on investments in the B2B side. And basically, for most of the startup, quite many of the startups actually have to go and meet the customers and make their sales going. And there are quite a few set of startups who primarily rely on inside sales. For them, I think it's not much of business change, but people who have to go and meet clients and then get that feel of personally feeling meeting them and stuff like that. I think that's something that has been completely lacking in this whole in Corona post Corona situation. I think how people are, I think, kind of mitigating that is through
So, sir, my question is to Siddharth sir again. So, like the thing is, let me ask you the most important question, like the entire economy is asking right now. When do we see the economy recovering, and what role does technology or innovation has to play in it? That's the $1 million question at this point in time. When
Yes.
are things getting better?
So, Abhinav, I think there are multiple views out there in terms of when the economy is going to come and when we activity going back to the same level as it was before.
I
I
guess
don't think,
your voice is breaking, sir. Can you please repeat them once?
yeah,
Thank you.
this is better.
Yeah, it's better.
So I'm saying that, look, there is no standard answer for across industries. I think the answer is going to vary industry by industry. Some industries will take faster to recover, and some industries will take much longer to recover. My broad sense is that, I think first quarter of next year, where I expect the April to June quarter as a quarter, where I would see that economic activity is closer to 25% what it was broadly speaking. But a lot of uptick happens in the next quarter.
You are breaking up, sir.
Uh, can you give me 1 second? Then
Okay, sir,
I,
not an issue. Not an issue, so please set it up.
yes.
Radesh, sir,
yeah.
like, what's your take on this? Like, when do you see the things getting back on track again for
I
the
think,
entire?
yeah, so the important thing is around the vaccine. Once we have the vaccine, I think things will bounce back. Now,
Okay.
the question is when that vaccine will be out. So, there are quite a few estimates of the vaccine coming out. Some are saying December, some are saying Q1 next year, some are saying Q2 next year, some are saying the vaccine may not be possible only.
Hmm.
So, it's just a question of what estimate we're going to be believing in. So, I'm
Okay.
very
Okay.
optimistic. Hopefully, that I think by December we should be having a vaccine out, and then
So, at this point in time, what are the areas or what are the tech areas where do you think that the innovations is going to be the next big thing? Like innovation is going to be like like the most in its bulk in its volume. What are the tech areas? What do you think, Radesh? Like the areas that would get the most out of innovation in the times to come?
yeah. So I think primarily, if I want to divide that, one will be AI and machine learning. AI also has many facets to it. So if you have the visual recognition, image recognition, which is one of the key aspect of obviously the subcategory of the AI. And there are quite a few startups who are using that particular aspect to drive innovations and come up with innovative solutions. The second aspect would be natural language understanding. So, I mean, to go back, the visual recognition will be something like as if a human eye can see, a computer can see like a human eye, and like just like a human eye can recognize whether whether we are seeing a person or we are seeing a animal. Similarly, the computer models can actually emulate that. In terms of natural language understanding, it's like
Hmm.
as if the computer models can actually emulate as if the humans are
Hmm.
understanding
Hmm.
the words that we
So
are.
okay. So
So
basically, you're telling me like machine learning and AI is the way forward for the entire economy at this point in time in terms of innovation.
yeah, I'll just complete it.
Yeah.
So one is the second is the natural language, and the third is basically the speech to text recognition.
Hmm.
So that's the other aspect, and we have actually made an investment in a company called Deep Effects, which does that speech to text and the sentiment analysis on top of it to see how the all conversation is going. The second category would be IoT and application of IoT for solving certain problems in the industry, whether it's manufacturing or healthcare and stuff like that. And then the third category I would probably put is AR and VR, and the fourth category would be blockchain. So these are the four things I think probably is kind of I'm seeing a lot of innovations coming out with application of the technology in these four areas.
Okay. So, Siddharth sir, we lost you there. Like my question to you was like, Radhesh sir told me like the economy would get better once the vaccine and everything comes up. So, what's your take on that question? Like, when can we expect things like back on track? Like, quick run through it, sir.
Yeah, Abhinav, am I audible now?
Yeah, you are, sir. Yeah, better.
So, Abhinav, for me, actually, economy is going to recover and recover. I don't think there is one single answer for
Hmm.
all industries or all sectors.
Hmm.
Each sector is going to respond. Some sectors are going to come back much better, maybe in the quarter. October to December is for them to come back. And some sectors, may take probably a portion of the year to come back. I generally believe that based on we expect the
You're gone again, sir. We lost you again.
yeah,
Yeah, like single syllables are audible, the multiple words are missing somewhere. So anyways, we'll try to fix that. Okay, now let's move on to the next question. Like, do you see COVID, like the pandemic, the slowdown? Like, the question is to both of you. Do you think it is an opportunity or is it a hurdle for the economy? Like, is it an
Rajesh, you want
opportunity?
to go first?
Rather, sir, like anyone's
Okay.
question.
Yeah, no, I can go first.
Yeah.
So I think this is also an opportunity for certain innovations to come up. For example, in the healthcare space, now there's a lot of opportunities for certain innovations. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of innovations coming up in telehealth, where when the patient can actually consult the doctor over a web conferencing. But beyond that, you will see a lot of things around. Actually, you're seeing a lot of things around prescriptions coming out from cognitive models. So the patient just talks about his symptoms and his past history that get captured by the system, and then the system actually comes out with what are the probable causes for those particular symptoms, and then the doctor sitting at the other end can actually come out with his diagnosis and stuff like that. The third could be around use of robotics especially if we talk about healthcare or if we talk about retail. So that's and good tailwind in these areas. And now, if you look into for example, we are doing this web conferencing, right? You would have imagined we're doing this web conferencing. We would have probably preferred physical conferences, right, pre-COVID.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is one way of how innovation is kind of driving around, post the COVID. Then basically, there's a lot of way companies are organizing, their workforce staff, and so I think post COVID, quite a few companies might take a call in terms of they may not need all the employees to work out of a physical location, but they can work remotely. And in fact, we have made an investment in a company called Totten, which actually kind of assesses whether people are more fit to work at home or people are more fit to work
Mm,
at office locations
mm,
where they are more productive. So these kind of innovations are definitely coming up, and there are a lot of innovations around e-commerce and delivery, especially essentials of food, and that's where you see a lot of AR and VR
So,
innovations also
so
coming up.
to sum it up, are you suggesting that the normal infrastructural things like lifestyle, healthcare, education. These are the fields, like the basic necessities actually would imbibe most of the innovations that are coming up in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you summarized it rightly in terms of there could be a certain change in way certain aspects are being done in retail, lifestyle,
Hmm.
education,
Hmm.
care.
Okay. So, Siddharth sir, are you there with me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Abhinav.
Okay. So, Siddharth sir, like, do you think it's the right time to invest in innovation for the investors, or like even the normal investors to invest in innovation right now rather than building up business models in the old things? Like, what do you think?
So, Abhinav, it is always a good time to invest in innovation. Always, you should not by a particular macro factor
Oh,
in deciding or defining your innovation. And
okay.
for me, innovation doesn't just mean technology. Innovation doesn't mean AI, ML, or deep learning or deep technologies. That's not what innovation is. Innovation could be as simple as a new idea,
Hmm.
could be as simple as a new process,
Hmm.
simple as a new way of doing the work, or a new customer behavior. So, to give you an example, right, the way I look at innovation is there is a digital uh, wave, right? Digital adoption wave that the adoption wave is for organization of consumers. The amount of digital consumption that you are doing in the last 3 months, the last 6 months, is far higher than the digital consumption you were doing ever before. And that is true for every consumer, that's true for every customer. Now, here is the opportunity for each one of us to think about what does this mean. If you are in a B2B business where you to meeting people, thinking about a digital way of reaching out to your you have to create when Rajesh mentioned about working from home. Now, I don't know how many people are going to work from home. Is it uh,
Okay.
but I do know people will work from home,
Okay.
right? And and that means that there will be certain number of people who will not be working in big, large
Hmm.
cities like Delhi and
Hmm.
Bombay. They may shift to a tier two or a tier three city because it's
Hmm.
okay for them to work from there. That's a great opportunity to see
Hmm.
consumption and see growth in tier two regions. Right? Uh, so I
Uh,
want the point I'm trying to make, Abhinav, is innovation can either be at a product level, can be at a service level, can be at a distribution level, can be at a sales channel level, can be at a supply level, right?
hmm.
Supply chain is getting disrupted, right? You can innovation can be bringing your sourcing closer to home, closer to where you are.
Okay.
Um, so it is always the right time to innovate.
So I guess we are running short of time here. But before we wrap up, like a lot of innovators and a lot of people who are interested in innovation are there in our webinar today. So this last question is first to Radesh sir. What's your word for innovators today? Like, what do you want to tell
So,
them? Reach
yeah,
out.
so I'm clear, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I think the first thing that one has to look into is that what are the current business problems that are there, and one has to look into is that how I'm going to solve those existing business problems using an innovative processes or getting technology, using technology to solve those problems, and that is one of the first and fundamental thing one has to look into. And so look into all the unicorns that are right now currently, or the companies that are scaled really well. They actually were solving a very hardcore business problem, and that's how. So that's the first part. And second is one has to look into is that what is the total addressable market, and what is the competitive landscape in that particular in that space, and then accordingly they have to take a plunge whether it makes sense to go into that space if that technology a total addressable market is good enough, and they are able to create certain differentiations in that particular segment that they want to play in, then they can actually, and then they are very confident of getting, executing that solution in terms of the product and go to market and partnerships, and then scaling that particular company in terms of revenues and in terms of funding is something that's optional. Yeah, so then they should take that whole plan. So there are quite a few things to look into, but I think the first and foremost thing is that what business problem I'm solving.
Okay. Okay. So now, before wrapping up, sir, Siddharth sir, what would be your word of advice to innovators?
So I think what I would say is that uh, what this pandemic has taught us is that there is a humanitarian aspect, right, in terms of how people will work, how people will live, how people will play, how people will engage going forward. I think all these four pillars in my mind are ready for some sort of a disruption. And what you need to see is that the product or the innovation that you're thinking about, how does that fit into these four? When you go through times like these, you know, I would suggest all innovators is it is time to engage more with the consumer rather to disengage with the consumer, right? So every time you're thinking about a new idea, you're thinking about launching a new product, make sure you engage more with the consumer. Make sure you understand what is the consumer mindset. Yeah, how do you expect the consumer to undergo a change, and accordingly respond or react to that, right?
Hmm.
Um, if you are doing a B2C business, have your strategy very clear of your distribution models, with respect to your sales channels, with respect
Hmm.
to your financial health, right? How much money you have in the bank. If you are doing a B2B model, then you got to think about the long gestation period. You got to go deep. You got to make sure that
Okay.
enough and more adoption of the product.
Hmm.
So my advice is that stay as close as possible to the customer, understanding how.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. I hope am I audible? Like,
You are audible.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, okay. For our viewers, that was Siddharth sir and Radesh sir. I know the voice quality came and went. I really apologize for that, but it was actually a very good learning session for us, and I hope we can have them again pretty soon. We are signing off now, and Andal, our vice president, like she'll come in and she'll take the next round of panel discussions. So thank you for now, and thank you, sir, Siddharth sir, and Radesh sir for taking out time and joining us.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Hi, Rahul.
Hi, Andal.
Okay. Hi. Hi, everyone. Just waiting for Ketan to get on, and then we can start. All right. Okay. It'll take just about 2 or 3 minutes to get started. Thanks, everyone, for holding in. Okay. Hey, Ketan. Okay. I think we have everyone on now.
Apologies for the delay at my side.
That's all right. That's all right. Okay. So I'm just gonna get started. Okay. With getting on with the session, with growing demand and the resurfacing belief that technology is omnipresent in every aspect of life, it's important to realize to what extent it's impacted the way we view money, right? Despite the fact that humans are indeed capable of performing everything that an AI can, scalability is a concern. So the machine can do what a human can do, but much more efficiently. So, having said that, it gives me great pleasure in introducing Ketan Salotra, a financial services professional with 10 years of experience in investing and investment banking. At present, he works with Capital as an investment professional, which is the strategic investment arm of the Times Group. So I'm going to let him take the light now while he discusses through a short presentation how technology is set to impact investments in the future. So we get started.
Okay, thanks a lot, Andal, for the generous introduction. I hope I'm clearly audible to everyone.
Yes, Ketan, you are.
Okay. Uh,
Okay, my screen is up for share. So take it on.
Okay, so I'll start. So this is a brief presentation where we'll try to look at very broadly the impact that new age technologies are likely to have on different industries within the realm of investing. That is investment management, M&A, and then PE, VC investing. Next slide, please, Anand. Yeah. Coming to investment management, with the internet explosion and everything that is available on individuals' smartphones today, was as easy as shopping online. So, in near future, emerging technologies are expected to transform all aspects of investment management, be it alpha generation, risk management, or even the back office operations. Uh, Machine learning, I think, will help in definitely help in suggesting investment strategies, which similarly, AI is also expected to pick past investment trends and suggest new opportunities going forward. Coming to robo advisory, this is already a thing of present. It has already changed the way wealth advisory is being delivered today. Uh, Robo advisory in future could be handling investment portfolio independent of human intervention. Uh, Broker features like next generation charting tools. These could make market analysis simpler. Finally, on blockchain, this is actually this was developed as a base code for running cryptocurrencies. But potential of blockchain lies, I mean, in investing, it lies in becoming a financial middleman for making financial transactions. So this could speed up. I mean, this could speed up the process and lower commissions compared to the traditional banks. Uh, Now, so technology performs very well, even better than humans in preparing customized portfolios, optimization of returns, and quick and simple financial analysis. Today, if you go through career website of any investment firm, don't be surprised really if you find the key words that are being used are data science, Python, R, etc. However, on the flip side, there'll be a few challenges which investment management firms will have to face in the near future on people front, data security front, and regulatory front. On the workforce challenge, I mean, these new age technologies cannot operate independent of their human counterparts. In the design of any financial model or any model intended to augment human functions, it's it is critical that the appropriate investment. Just a second. Uh, it is critical that the appropriate in both creation as well as maintenance of the technology. Challenge for investment management firms will really be in finding the new talent, really data scientists, emerging technologies, and at the same time also reskilling their existing employee base for them to be forming high functioning teams and departments and businesses. On the data security front, with every new piece of technology, there is potential for even more exposure of personal information, especially making them vulnerable to cybersecurity fraud. On the regulatory angle, so provision of investment advice is heavily regulated, right? So any new tools or robo advisors, they are subject to regulation and supervision as applicable to the traditional advisors. So going forward, policymakers should also consider applicability of existing regulations to the new or the emerging technologies in asset management and provide them additional guidance. Uh, they should also regulators should also engage with industry to develop best practices and encourage ongoing innovations. Next slide, Andal. Okay, so we spoke about investment management. Now coming to M&A life cycle. So iBanks, investment banks, they have traditionally relied on spreadsheets for analyzing any target company data, right? From my own experience, there's a lot of pre-deal work which goes into M&A without any guarantee of a deal happening. This effort is time consuming, it's labor intensive, and it requires significant human judgment and experience. And it would be great really if this work can be taken care of by the technology. So, we think, or in future there is likely to be a shift towards smart automation. That is, some advanced integrated tools and techniques for processing of data, which provides both larger picture and also the microscopic details. And most of this work can be done with little or no human intervention, hence saving both time and effort of the deal team. And if there are some errors which come up in this automation, these adjusted results can be fed back into the automated system, so that the system can learn from its mistakes and become smarter and more accurate over a period of time. We think that new age technologies, they're likely to impact following phases of M&A life cycle. That is deal sourcing, due diligence, negotiations, and post-merger integration. At deal sourcing stage, AI, ML, these can help us create tools to monitor market trends, identify new deal themes and potential opportunities in the market. Investment banks, which will be using these, can identify transaction opportunities faster than their peers. On due diligence, VDRs, or the virtual data rooms, they contain thousands of documents that need to be evaluated by the buy side parties, right? So by there are like huge armies of legal and financial advisors, which make it more, very costly and time consuming. So, in future, these documents faster, but they can also find out any issues which probably human eye can miss. And I was reading that there are some estimates by consulting firms saying that over 20% that can be replaced by AI. On the negotiations, technology can definitely help there also, with quicker and deeper insights available to the deal team. Bidders can basically quickly decide whether they want to pursue a target or move on to something else. Uh, then on to post-merger, once the deal is signed, data analytics and big data analytics, they can help provide insights into areas such as optimization of business activities, tracking synergies, identifying potential value creation between the merged companies. Uh, Okay, then blockchain technology, that may also be used to probably design a marketplace where businesses can communicate their metrics and asking price to potential purchasers anonymously and privately. Uh, like uh, investment management firms, there are few challenges in applying these technologies to M&A as well. So AI is as good as the data you feed it, right? So it needs to be used with care and clear understanding of the limitations. So if suppose a company has incomplete or poor accounts, then AI will also make poor decisions for you. Similarly, then there are some other areas which are subjective areas, and these are difficult to answer even for experienced human employee, let alone AI. I think on the M&A front, digitalizing this whole deal making process is expected to definitely change working habits, and it may even democratize M&A, basically taking deal management out of the hands of senior, highly skilled, and knowledgeable professionals, and allowing lesser skilled and less experienced parties to assume a key role during a transaction. One thing, though, leveraging these tools is, it's no guarantee of M&A success, and allow companies to probably close their deals quicker. Okay. Next slide, Anand. Yeah. Now coming to the last section, PE VC investing of this presentation. Today, digitization has become a source of competitive advantage for leading PE VC firms. PE investors today, they are technologically literate, but they also have to implement these upcoming technologies like AI, ML, and IoT across their portfolio companies. New age technologies, they are likely to have significant impact on three key areas within PE investing. These are investment research,
And I guess Gaten has lost connection.
Yeah, yeah. I think so as well. Give me a second. So let me do one thing. I think we'll wait for him to join back, but until then, I don't want to stop with the session. So I'm just going to get on with yours. All right. Thank you everyone for staying on. Further to this, I'd like to introduce Rahul Vishwakarma, who is the co-founder and CEO of MateLabs. Now, MateLabs has been felicitated by Google as the best AI/ML startup out of the APAC region last year. So, before we get on with a more technical discussion, I'd like to have Rahul introduce himself and talk a little about his professional experience.
Hi, thanks, Andal. Hi, everyone. Rahul here, co-founder and CEO of Mate Labs, where we have built an AutoML technology to help businesses adopt machine learning and AI at a speed which was not possible before. Currently, we are leading the flag in the AI ecosystem, where we are AutoML technology currently is 100 times faster than anything available right now. We are currently helping FMCGs and CPGs and helping them creating and forecasting demand ahead in the future at the most granular level. More on my background, Kailash, my co-founder, and I have over a decade worth of experience in machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, and data science. We have been contributors to some of those frameworks, such as TensorFlow, Scikit, having open source in an NLP library before as well, and have been helping and consulting companies from since very beginning of 2012 itself. That's it, Angie.
Okay,
Thanks.
perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to get on with a little Q&A, and I think there are a few questions as well. So if we have time, we can definitely answer some of those. So,
Absolutely.
Rahul, like, how does a machine learn over time, and what do you need to input into a machine for it to absorb more factors?
Depends what exactly the use case is, first of all. Some of
Mhm.
the use cases are one-time use cases, one-time learning. Some of the use cases are recurring in nature. Depends what is the recurring cycle, right? Now, whatever data you have, right, the machine can learn about it. First of all, let me actually put that in perspective, right? We have largely, if you have to divide ML world, AI ML world, you see classification, regression, forecasting, and generative models as a say more or less bucket, which basically defines the AI/ML landscape or any use case that you may think of, right? Now, the question that you ask, I'm having a little difficulty because what data you use depends on what use case I have, right? And the use case pretty much literally defines it. I don't have really an answer to that, Andy.
Well, that's all right. So, I mean, in view of recent events, right, which should have really affected consumer sentiment, how does
Ah,
technology
sure,
begin to resolve
sure,
that
sure.
issue?
Sure. So a little background on that as well. We also are the only company where we are able to kind of predict demand even during the COVID time as well. We are able to forecast consumer sentiment, consumer shifts as well, right? The demand shifts as well is something that we have helped. For example, one of the largest cosmetics company, we gave them for their e-commerce channel, we gave them a forecast of around 75%, right? Similarly, for one of the largest CPG company in sanitizer space, right? We back in March we gave them forecast accuracy of around
Mm-hmm.
70%. And that was when the growth was of around 50 to 80% on a month-on-month basis. So that's a
Right.
quite a good of a peak, right? Now, how do we do that? Is basically again, it's all about data, right? Now, how exactly you're able to create certain features, right? How you're able to kind of give uh, a number, a magnitude, and a direction to any shift that is happening, right? Is how, I mean, it's very high level, it's quite loosely packed, but more or less, if you look at your data, your historical data itself will have certain dynamics like that, right? It will itself will be able to guide the model to kind of predict something, be it upward or be it downward, right? If you are able to kind of identify those moments in the history, right, which can help you guide this as well.
Got it. Okay. The next question I had was, so how do real-time forecasts work?
So
Can Mhm.
go ahead, please complete your
Oh no,
question.
or how can a system accurately forecast sales and demand, keeping the rapidly changing circumstances in check?
Absolutely. See, so it it becomes difficult to fathom or imagine, right?
Mhm.
If you look at it sitting on the ground, right? But if you go a little above, right, when you do forecasting at a macro scale, right?
Mhm.
When I say macro scale, I mean you start looking at n number of, say, for example, products, n number of location, right?
Mhm.
It kind of starts making sense, right? So there you start finding pattern in the chaos that is there, right? So real time forecasting is also something similar to that, right? If you are able to kind of identify how the demand is going, right? The general mass or the general public tends to follow a similar fashion, right? Even in the future as well. You just have to kind of give it the same direction. So basically, if you're able to give weightage to both recent activities and get learning from historical data as well, is how you basically build the forecast.
Okay, fine. So talking about supply chain in specific, right? Over this year, what changes have you seen from your perspective, or from MateLab's perspective? What have been your biggest challenges?
So first of all, the major shift has been from offline to online world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even this is a little difficult to, I mean, nudge right now. Why? Because we are not sure if this is going to last or not. At least for now, the growth is mind-boggling, to be honest, right?
Right.
But not necessarily that a lot of this demand is going to be is will be sustained. So there will be a saturation point, and it'll stabilize around one point basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, even and it's not about essential, non-essential right now. It's about the needs are changing right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
People working from home versus people going out. First of all, right? That has an impact, right?
Right.
Then this alone itself has a huge impact that you can see from your essentials. Even
Yeah.
in essentials, for example, snacks, right? People are snacking a lot now
Mhm.
versus
Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
To, for example, to cosmetics, right? You're not probably buying more of, say, eye care
Mm.
products versus hair care. So hair care is something is which is picking up like anything versus eye care now. So you're not
Mm-hmm.
buying kajals and all versus
Right.
you're rather buying shampoo more.
Right.
So these are
Yeah.
the trends that we are seeing right now shifting like anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Really relatable as well. So the other one is, what is the right AI or ML template that any business executive can adopt to assess the feasibility and outcomes?
Sure. So whenever there is, first of all, there is a conversation that is going on. Should we
Mm-hmm.
adopt AI or not? Right.
Right.
One is understanding, having a clear mindset. First of all, a lot of companies fail in adopting AI
Mm-hmm.
when they don't have a clear mindset
Mm.
or clarity in terms of what is first of all use case itself. A
Right.
lot of times is not clear. Then two, what are the KPIs that you're looking to have an impact on?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And third is, are we ready for it or not? Or at
Right.
least are we, for example, there are two things, all right? One is readiness on the data side. If the data side is not ready, are we ready for that investment? So there's
Got it.
a little
There's a
uh,
codependency basically.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
if the
Hmm.
data is not there, or if the data is not at the right amount, right, then you probably will have to, the ROI basically gets stretched out,
That's
right?
right.
So, and
Yeah.
are you ready for that investment? One.
Hmm.
Two, and also investment is something that doesn't mean that you have to spend millions of dollars. You can get started even with a couple of lakhs and get started with deriving value out of it. Depends,
Yeah.
first of all, whom you're working with. Anyway, second is, um once I'm talking about the use case, first of all, if your target is, for example, looking at a large company for that matter, right? There are more or less three, four priorities, right? One is your revenue growth.
Right.
Two is profitability increase.
Hmm.
Three is optimizing the current, I mean, which is related to your profitability only.
Hmm.
Three is, of course, reducing losses, right? Four is increasing, building capability inside,
Yeah.
right? These are more or less, or basically future product growth as well, right? Or product development as well. So these are five or six more major capabilities that you have to think
Hmm.
about as a company. Now, define these as a KPI, right? Then go down and see what are the use cases, what are the, for example, elements in your company, in your entire operation chain that is impacting that particular KPI, right?
Hmm.
Now, one is that something which is not too large in scale. Is it something that a single human can solve? If yes, then probably you don't need it, right? If not, if it is such, if the scale itself is large enough, then probably yes, you should start looking at that, right?
Right.
Depends on what is the impact or ROI that you have, and don't see the impact from a 2 month, 3 month perspective. But rather see it at 2 to 3 years perspective,
Hmm.
right? Once you have identified all of that, right? Once you have the clarity, this is the use case, this is the KPI that I want to increase, is when you have to start looking at, should I go for developing an in-house capability, or should I go and hire someone outside, right? Hire versus build,
Right.
basically, right?
Right.
Now, even in that as well, depends what kind of use case you have, right? A lot of times companies build internal capabilities, but
Hmm.
the domain expertise that you need, right? It's not just about machine learning. It's also about, see, that's the place where a lot of times companies don't understand, right? ML exists in both technology and business as well,
Hmm.
right? It sits at the junction of both of these worlds, right? Now, it's not just that you hire data scientists and you are transforming your business and start using AI. No, it's not necessarily like that. You also need the domain experts for that
Right.
particular use case. Now, do
Hmm.
they have time for that? Will Are they stakeholders in that or not?
Right.
Right. So these are some of the questions that you have to ask. Now, once you have done all of that, for example, the stakeholder is also ready, right? Now, would you get an experienced data scientist or not? Right. Once
Hmm.
that is also established, once you're established around everything is sorted around resources, use case, everything else, then what are the models and what is the roadmap that you have to define? So the roadmap, a lot of times the companies really get stuck with is, I need to get a world of data before I really get started with anything.
Hmm.
Not necessarily with any use case, to be honest, right? You can get started with any data that you have in hand, right? Be it any use case for that matter, right?
Hmm.
From your classification to your regression, of course accuracy will not be there, but the point is, I actually happen to whenever I'm talking to my peers, I'm talking to people in the industry, right? It is usually a waterfall kind of approach that everyone takes in adopting AI/ML, right? Rather than going with an agile or a lean approach, with whatever, get started with whatever you have, with or without data scientist, with or without domain expert. If
Hmm.
you have a need, you can get started with it.
Right. Okay, that's fair enough. I do have one question that I want to ask you if you'd be up to taking it. You've been present in the industry for a long time. I think somebody did pose a question about any vision for security against technology. I think that's obviously a very big question, cybersecurity. How do you tackle that?
So, see, one, security. I didn't get the question. Security of technology, or is it around data security?
It is around data security. That's what I believe the question is. But yeah, we
Okay.
can cover that aspect. I think it's important anyway.
Okay. So, see, data securities. is an important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, right. Now, the point is a lot of times these data are stored in its raw format,
Mm-hmm.
right? So one, I'm not a cybersecurity expert, first of all,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm only telling you from a point where you have to kind of lend your data to someone else,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, if you really want to just sit on that data and do nothing with it, you can literally just cut all the cords and your data is secure, absolutely. But if you
Mm-hmm.
have a need of that data, right? If you want to use it internally or externally as well, you probably need to build, for example, abstract forms of that. I mean, say, for example, you can annotate it in a different way altogether,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can just obfuscate the data enough that even if it gets lost, you
Mm-hmm.
one, your raw data is sorted, and
Mm-hmm.
two, no one can get a sense out of that. Or,
Right.
for example, especially the data security comes when your competition is of a key thing, right? That your competitor may get a hang of what exactly is happening. You
Mm-hmm.
can simply obfuscate the data enough that it doesn't make it will not give you any business insights out of it. Whereas
Yeah.
you can still build data models on top of it, be it machine learning models or be it your usual BI models.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm actually curious about this. Like, considering you've been present in the industry for a long time, right? Do you think there are challenges that are unique to the Indian market that you face?
Yes, the challenge that is there. See, the major challenge, be it technology company,
Mm-hmm.
be it non-technology company, right, or traditional company. Honestly speaking, a lot of times people think for building it in-house.
Yeah.
That is a one major challenge that we have, especially in the Indian ecosystem. I mean, initially we started with this approach, with this mindset, because the talent was not there,
Mm-hmm.
the capability is still coming up,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's more about this thing. What ends up happening is that the progress is not made,
Right. Right.
right? So this is one challenge that I definitely can tell you, that
Mm.
it's not an inclusive or collaborative market per se.
Right.
That's just
Yeah.
one challenge, right? And second, if I have to tell you around challenges, of course, see, Indian market has its own challenges when you talk about AIML implementation or data understanding, right? One is around the sheer complexity. Even in the data where language is not a barrier, it's a neutral language data. Even in that, the sheer, for example, I'll give you from where I'm coming from where we help our customers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Demand forecasting for that matter, right? Believe it or not, first of all, your Kirana stores are 80% of the total retail market of the country,
Mm.
right? You know
Yeah.
how a product reaches from from a manufacturing plant to a kirana store. It's an entire mesh of hands exchanging goods, right?
Mm-hmm.
From your plant to your CFA location or your distribution centers to your depots to your distributors to your retailers, and then it reaches kirana store,
Right.
and then it goes to the end user, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even at the lowest level as well, you have, I mean, number of kirana stores in the country are what, close to around 10-20 million, actually more than that,
That's
for
mind-boggling. Yeah. Yeah.
much more than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to understand, and especially if you look at a developed or a mature economy like US, right,
Mm-hmm.
where the kirana concept or a mom and pop store concept is what, 10% of the total retail out
Right.
there, right?
Right. Yeah.
There 70-80% is actually your supermarket and hypermarket stuff, right? Yeah. There it becomes easy because you are then only thinking about, say, major players,
Mm.
right? Anticipating demand there becomes easier,
Right. Yeah.
right? You have to
Because it's
anticipate
more
demand
it's more structured, right? Over here, it's like a
much
lot of
more.
unstructured
No,
business. I
it's not about.
understand.
I mean, no, India is also structured in its own way.
All
I'm
right.
not saying India is not unstructured. India is not structured.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that Indian market works very differently. The buying pattern, the
Mm-hmm.
buying behavior is very different. You would rather trust a store near your house than
Mm-hmm.
go to a big supermarket because there'll be a huge
That's
line.
true. Yeah, that's
So
true.
India has its
Yeah.
own pluses and minuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to see it as it is, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and I was not saying that from any. I was saying that from a neutral light, not from a good or from a bad perspective, right?
No, I understand.
Yeah, it
I
was
think that's
more
an
from a neutral
important
light,
insight.
but yeah, but it has its own challenges, which kind of helps. For example, one of the reasons why we have been able to build a technology like this thing is because we have seen complexity from the day zero itself, right?
Right,
Hence,
right.
since we are able to solve it here, it just becomes a piece of cake for us to kind of go anywhere else and do it for any other country.
That makes sense actually. You practice where it's the toughest. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, I think Ketan is trying to rejoin, but there's probably an issue, and
Yeah.
I think we're running out of time. Is there anything else that you'd like to cap this off with before we end this?
I mean, I guess this probably is an year or two late because the hype around AIML is already kind of
It is.
pretty much stabilized, right? But still, the one of the major problems when anyone sees AIML or hears AIML is that it's a complex technology.
Mm,
Let me tell you, it is not that complex of a technology, at least from the intuition point of view, right? A
mm,
lot of times, I mean, unlike your development, right?
mm-hmm,
Unlike your product development, your core backend, your core front end, your cloud and all, right? AIML, since it sits at the junction of both business and tech, right? Whatever background you're coming from,
mm-hmm,
right? It is not mind numbing.
right.
To at least develop that intuition. Will it work here or not? Just
Mm,
ask those basic questions. Of course, it's a black box, but there are ways to unriddle it. Right? There are ways to untangle it and understand what's
right.
happening inside, right? As far
Mm-hmm,
as you can relate your data to the outcome you have, and the intuition that I'm talking about, can you relate that data to that outcome? Does that seem logical to you?
mm,
It's not quantum
right.
mechanics. It is
Mm-hmm,
your same maths you have read it in your school. It's just that you have to just
right.
make sense of, does that data will it be able to produce something like this thing? And as I said, the entire machine learning or AIML world can be summed up in four different buckets, right? Your classification or regression forecasting and your generative
Mm-hmm,
models.
right.
If you can bucket any of your use case or anything that you have in
Mm-hmm,
any of these four things, right, then you can find any data and you can identify what data you would need to prepare or build that or solutionize that use case for that matter, or develop an intuition. It's that simple.
understood. Okay, great. Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you
Really
so much.
glad that you could come on and talk for a bit. Okay, cool. I think
Absolutely.
we'll close this session right now, and I'll see the audience in a bit. Thanks a lot. You guys have a
Thank you.
great day.
You too. Yeah.